Well, hello there and welcome everyone to the Advisor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jacomen. And guys, listen, we have an absolutely unbelievable episode for you today. I have the honor and the blessing of having an amazing guest on with us, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But first, I want to introduce my co-host, Chad Ramberg. Chad, how are you doing today?
Rob, doing good. Yes, it's an adventure today for sure.
As it always is. We always have technology right at our side, and it's always working for us, isn't it? So guys, listen, we are so honored to have Derrick Kinney on our podcast today. And he's been so gracious in his time and he's going to give us such enormous value. But just give you a little backdrop on Derrick, and I'll introduce him. And then Chad, you can take it from here after that. Derrick is a best-selling author, and it's called The Good Money Revolution. And Derrick this is so cool because Derrick is a nationally recognized expert in helping to turn conversations into clients for financial advisors. So guys, without any further ado, we have Derrick Kinney. Derrick, how are you doing today?
Oh, it's great to be with you, Rob, Chad. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and I know you're very select on who you invite on your show, so I'm glad to make this list. It's really fun to be with you today.
Are you kidding me? You're like a superstar. You've been on as seen on Fox News and CNN and CNBC. Like, you're like famous. So, I mean, we're actually lucky to have you.
I need to tell my kids you said that so they actually see me in a different way.
That's right.
Sincere honor. And, and that's why we do what we do. We want our goal and our vision for this podcast is really to bring enormous value to financial advisors, RIAs, anybody who's in the financial services industry. We want to just see you win every single day. And bringing a guy like Derrick on is one of those things that's going to help you win. Trust me. So when you hear what he has to say, you guys are going to love it. And with that, I'll kick it off. Chad, if you want to start with our first question and fire away.
Absolutely. The coolest thing was I met Derrick initially, I think it was last fall at the NAPFA Fall Conference. We met at dinner and we sat right beside each other, had a great dinner. And then the next morning, he was the presenter up front and everyone. It was awesome. And one of the best things, and I'm sure this will come up a little bit, one of the great things that Derrick likes to say is you don't need to change everything all at once. You just need a quarter twist, which is so cool. And Derrick does have a great story. So let's start with the question, because Derrick, I'd love to hear a little background on your journey. I think if I'm remembering correctly, you were an advisor, you had a very successful career, and just tell me kind of what got you to here, what got you to also put a book together?
That's a big question. So I was a financial advisor for 25 years, but going back in time, I was 26 years old, but when I looked in the mirror, I looked like I was teen. And I asked myself, who would invest with a young guy like me? No wrinkles, no gray hair, and most importantly, no big list of clients to call on. I didn't come from the gene pool of the well-connected people, but I did have a passion for local education of all things. And I went back to my alma mater high school because when I was in high school, nobody ever came back that was successful to give a high school student kind of a vision of what their life could look like. Everybody just said, take your math and your history and your science and you'll be set up for success. I wasn't really buying that, and most other seniors weren't either. So I go back and I say to the principal, I would love to present a Teacher of the Month and a Student of the Month award. Well, fast forward this, we begin doing this, and a couple months later, I get a phone call. And what this woman said to me on the phone call changed everything about how I began to grow my business. She said, Derrick, we know you're young. We know that you're brand new, but we want you to be our financial advisor because you care about what we care about. You care about what we care about. And it was that simple dialogue that led me to understand I didn't have to be the best looking. I didn't have to be the smartest or the well-connected. I just needed to care about what my ideal clients cared about. And it was that support of local education, sponsoring of all things with a $50 and a $25 monthly gift card that landed my first $1 million client and eventually grew a multi-million-dollar financial planning business.
That's awesome. That is great. Yeah. Yeah. So Good Money was the book that you wrote. And I love that you've got 25. I mean, look, part of my thing is I walked in the shoes for a very short period of time with advisors. You were successful at it. And then Good Money, tell us what Good Money is, kind of the concept of it, because a lot of people think all money's good.
As I kind of bring into my office here for many years, as I would talk to clients, there was this emerging, surprising topic that would come out of their mouths. And they would talk about how they liked money, but they felt bad about it. And they begin to talk about the vitriol and the animosity that they saw in culture about if people were successful financially, they were viewed as bad. For example, these top CEOs that were very successful, think about about Amazon and Microsoft, all these big people, surely they're suppressing their workers and they're pushing people down to hog all the money themselves. That's what culture was saying. And I thought to myself, that is just not right, because I like to make money, and I like to make money by helping other people make money. But the joy of just investing and being strategic and seeing their money make money and I make money, it's just this beautiful thing. I began to think, if they're saying that, this is a message I need to get out. But here's what people were being sold, and that is, go make a lot of money. And once you hit that 7 figures in your bank account and you're crushing it financially, then you will feel happy. And what we found is that people began to do that, but they sacrifice their family and their friendships and even themselves. And they get to the top of the mountain and they look around and they hear their voice echo because nobody else is there with them. And they feel completely empty and meaningless. And they realized, I was just sold a big lie. And so what I believe is, we can have both. You can go make a lot of money, but instead of using your motivation as, I want to have this bulging bank account, use it to say, I want the bulging bank account, but so that I can use it for good and impact the causes I care about. And it was that little quarter twist that began to help business owners and other advisors realize the antidote to burnout is finding a cause you care about, and then not just privately supporting it, but letting the clients you most want to work with know about the cause, because it invites them into this story about being something bigger. And by working with you as their advisor, they're not just getting good returns and achieving their goals, they're part of this bigger cause that otherwise, if you hadn't opened the door, they couldn't walk in and be part of that. And that puts around your business.
Wow. So yeah, here's why I love to have Derrick on. We're looking for those inspirational moments to really help advisors. One of the things I know we have, we do it as a team here, Rob and I, but one of the things when I was a financial advisor, it was so hard to go out every day and do the work that we want to do good for people and help them out. And so this is hopefully going to be inspiring for some advisors to help them keep going, because sometimes if you're, you might be in a big office, but you feel like you're all alone sometimes. And so this is some good reminders there on that. So with that, and when we talk to advisors, a lot of advisors have good intentions and they're doing good things for their clients, but there are so many challenges out there for advisors. And I think you talk a lot with advisors too, Derrick. So what do you see as some of those challenges, and how do you help us get through that?
Ultimately, I can talk about causes all day and I can talk about inspiration and meaning, but for the advisor listening right now that says, Derrick, all that sounds great, but I just need my next ideal client. I just need somebody to help me grow my business. So let's get it all the way down to that first level. And there was a problem that I had as a financial advisor, and I think other advisors can relate to this. When people would ask me, what do you do for a living? I used to cringe. I used to know the words I'm about to say are about to promote a comatose look on this person's face, and they're going to run away. And it just caused me to be depressed. I mean, I studied so long and I prospected and I did all the licensing things I needed to do, thinking I would have to get a separate phone on my desk for all the calls that would come in for people thinking, Derrick, I need you as my advisor. I know you've worked so hard to get here. And it was crickets. So I needed to come up with a better way. So let me tell you a quick story. Let's say that you're in a social setting right now. You're mingling around and you've got a drink in your hand. It'd be a Topo Chico, could be a glass of whiskey, whatever your drink of choice is. And you meet a guy and you have some small talk and he says to you, what do you do for a living? And you say, I'm a financial advisor. And his eyes kind of roll back a little bit. And then you say to him, what do you do for a living? And he says, I help people design workout plans and eat better. I'm a personal trainer. You might ask him a few other questions about how he became a trainer and who he works with and so forth. And then you politely close the conversation and move on. Later on that night, you meet a woman, exchange some small talk, and she asks you, what do you do for a living? You say financial advisor. Her eyes kind of look dazed a bit. And then you say to her, what do you do? And she says, you know how busy business owners want to work hard and grow their business, but they also want to look good and feel good. And they want to be that cool grandparent that one day can chase their grandkids across the floor without losing their breath, but they don't have the time to eat better or work out. I solve that problem for busy people so they can look good, feel good, and live the life they've always wanted. That's why I love what I do. Now let's take that, what you just heard, and a week later, you're talking to your spouse and you say, you know what? I really feel like I need to get into shape. which personal trainer do you remember that you are going to call? The first one or the second one?
Second one.
Yeah, the second. Yeah, I think I'm remembering. Yeah.
Why that, do you think? Why did the second one stand out more to you?
Well, I can answer that. I think she painted a picture of the result and the outcome that I could experience from working with her. And it made me feel like, wow, I could do that too. I can look and feel that like that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I think that's the answer. That's why I would want to work with her.
Yeah. I want to feel good and look good too. What else would you want,
So what that illustrates is when you're faced with that question, you have a choice to make. And it turns out the words you say will either open a door to your next prospect or they will slam that door shut. But it's that moment where you get to choose the words, because I believe that words. So let's say, for example, that for the parents listening right now, if I were to say to a fellow parent this line, do you ever feel like your son or daughter, when you talk to them, it goes in one ear and out the other? But you're like, yeah, I mean, it's like this visceral, immediate response to a pain point that you immediately relate to. But if I say, hey, could you give me some information about the driver's ed I'm looking for my son or daughter? Now you're simply transferring information, whereas the first question, you were transferring emotion. And so what I would tell advisors, and this is the first step of this, is to identify what is a relatable problem that your ideal prospect has. So for example, I'll kind of model this because this was my biggest struggle as a financial advisor. So I wanted to come up with a solution to address my own pain, but it turns out this helps a lot of other advisors find their voice as well. So what I would say is, you know how people worry about running out of money in retirement? As I slightly nod my head and they say, yes, we have a 3-step plan that addresses their financial concerns and worries so they can confidently know that they will not run out of money. Okay, now that may be perfect for some people, not for others, but the key ingredients of that are when you say, you know how there's an assumption of course, the person's going to know what you're saying, A, but most importantly, you've identified this immediately relatable problem that the person you're talking to says, yes, I get that. This person gets me. Someone understands me. And that happened in a use of about 10 words. And then the other piece of that is just describing, here's the plan that we use, and here's the emotion that you'll feel when you work with us, that transformation confirmation. Okay. So what people can do is, after watching and listening to this great podcast, is just ask yourself, what is the relatable problem that my ideal clients have? And one of the best ways to do this, I like to keep things very simple. I wasn't the academically superior student in high school and college, so I had to keep it really simple. You just want to do this. Look at your most 5 recent clients and then your 5 favorite clients. So ask, of your 5 most recent clients, what is the common problem that those people sought you out to help you solve their problem for? Okay. And then second, your 5 favorite clients. These are the people who, when you see their name on your calendar, you smile and your staff smiles. These people love me. Everything I say to them, they do, and they've benefited from that. If only my family could listen to my top 5 favorite clients, for goodness sake. But this is your focus group telling you who you are recently, what problems you're solving recently, and the favorite people who put their name to you. So that's the starting point there, is when you're asked that question, then with confidence. Now, what I'm going to say next may sound kind of funny, but in Texas, where I am, we love our barbecue. And one of the things I love most is brisket. Okay. Such a good meat. The way they cook brisket is low and slow. They cook it on low heat for a long amount of time. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you get called on by surprise? Let's say you're in church, the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, you're at some meeting and you hear a grown man's voice go up like 10 octaves when they're asked, this crazy, it happens to women as well. And what happens is, when you're caught by surprise, when people hear you appear to sound nervous, it automatically makes them feel nervous and on defense. So instead, you just want to practice your how statement. So I like to say, go brisket. You want to go low and slow, much like you're a doctor talking to the patient who has deep concern about what they're sharing. What do you do for a living, Chad? You know how people worry if they've saved enough money to be able to retire? Yeah. And so you go a little bit lower in your voice and talk a little bit slower in your voice. And all of that commands authority. And empathy in a way where this person says, this person clearly knows what they're talking about and could probably help me solve my financial pain.
Wow.
I'm gonna have my team make sure and listen to this podcast.
Sign me up for that one too. I want to know when the next workshop is or training.
No, this is
To me.
so fun. Yeah, specific things that, there's lots of nuggets you're given.
Yeah, Derrick, that's tactical stuff that is just so valuable. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you're talking really about transformation versus information. And I can't remember who I was listening to somebody this week that says, people don't want information. They want transformation.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're talking about. You're actually talking about transforming the way we communicate and the way we articulate our value to someone else in a way that they can really feel. They can feel the emotion, and it kind of puts them in that situation, which I think is so powerful. So, Derrick, here's my next question for you. How important is it for financial advisors to be very clear on who their ideal client is? Because you had mentioned that a couple of times as you were talking through that. And you were sharing like, hey, if you're talking to your ideal client, or think about who your favorite clients are and think about what problems you help to solve. How important is it for a financial advisor in this day and age right now to truly be a specialist, to understand very clearly who is their ideal client profile and the problems that they can help to solve for that specific type of client?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you asked that, because let me frame it this way. If you needed to have a delicate medical procedure done on your shoulder, would you be more inclined to go to the general practitioner who knows a little bit about a lot, or would your immediate thought be, I need to see a shoulder specialist?
That's a no-brainer.
And so the point of that question is the best advisors simply connect with existing client behavior. They don't try to create client behavior. Okay, so for example, let's say hypothetically that I was in a plane crash and I land in a dense forest, and on the plane is a shovel, and I've got a choice to make. I'm thirsty and I need water. I can either take the shovel and start to dig out a trench and wait for water to come to fill up that trench, so now I have water, or I could take the shovel with me and walk as quickly as I could through the forest to find an existing water source. Which would be the better use of my time?
I'd go find a water source.
And so the point of that illustration is clients are thinking one way, and often financial advisors are thinking a different way, and advisors are thinking clients should think my way. Instead, advisors need to realize, just think the client's way and find how to channel demand as opposed to create demand. And so what I find is when I would work with my own clients, let me take you into my own private office now and talk to my clients, I would say to them, the reality is I am not the only advisor in town. And they would laugh, I would laugh. And I would say, here's how advisors work. There are some advisors that are what are called general practitioners. They know a little bit about a lot, and they can be very useful, especially as you're accumulating some wealth. We choose to specialize in what's called retirement income planning. So we have a very narrow slice of the pie that goes very deep. And what that does is for people who are ready to retire, they want someone who all they do is focus on retirement issues 24/7. Which would you be more comfortable with? Do you want more of a general practitioner, or would you prefer to work with the specialist? And what I've done is I've not told them who to work with. I've simply described it in a way that lets them know here are the options. They then click the opt-in form. Oh, no, I want the specialist. I want you. So there's a beauty to this. And I didn't discover this until late in my financial advisor career, but I think it can help a lot of people short circuit success. And that is what I find is many people's fear is, well, if I specialize, Derrick, then not everybody's going to want to work with me, which is true. But there's this amazing psychological twist that occurs that is undeniable. When you say you specialize in something, it makes you more attractive to people who don't necessarily need you as a specialist. Now they're like, I want you. I want to choose you. How can I work with you? And so by narrowing down who you work with, you actually become wider and more attractive to the people you want to work with. But keep in mind, the game we're playing here, and I say this affectionately, is we're all burning brain cells, and we all have a limited number of brain cells we can choose to allocate to every decision decision we make. So that's why when you say to someone, what do you do for a living? And you answer, I'm a financial advisor. What you're causing in their mind to do is they go through a mental checklist of, oh, my friend got ripped off by a financial advisor. This person, all they do is sell fee-based things or big insurance policies or annuities or whatever it is. And so you didn't do anything to cause any of that, but you tapped into their internal mental checklist that they already have. And that's why they get that comatose look like, oh, okay, I put you in a box. I don't need you. But when you say to someone, you know how people worry about running out of money in retirement, it completely changes the narrative. There's no checklist. Now you're transferring an emotional connection with a relatable problem, and they can't help but say, yes. So the goal of that first piece of that is to say something so instantly relatable that it creates this automatic reaction that even a third grader knows, yeah, it's not good to not have enough money. I don't want to run out of money. It's this immediate thing. So that becomes the top of the funnel. And then in the dialogue, so we specialize in what's called retirement income planning. Then I would tell a story, quick story. Had a couple come in the office recently. They were worried, they were nervous, they were anxious. And by crafting a customized financial plan for them, we discovered something we weren't expecting. They realized they could actually retire sooner and on less money and begin to have more joy in their life. That's why I love what I do. And let me stop that explanation with that last line, because it's important for people to know that you love what you do, because people purchase passion. When you're passionate, when you're engaging, when you're just excited about something, you just invite people to wonder, why is he or she so excited about this? And when you say those words, it's because I love what I do. Most Americans will never, ever say, I love what I do. And when you say that, you stand out.
That's why I love what I do here with you, Chad, because we bring a guy like Derrick on, and it's
absolutely. And I think this is infectious. Something that was interesting when we were first starting, you talked about, how to avoid burnout for an advisor. And I'm just guessing you have some great quarter twist ideas if somebody's getting a little bit too close to that, because it's a natural, ups and downs of life. What is a good idea to adjust to maybe get back in the game with everything to be that help for our clients?
I'll share a personal story with you here. One of the personality qualities I have is I tend to be an A-driven personality. So I tend to run really fast and I set a lot of goals. What I realize though, the Achilles heel of that is without a clear direction and monitoring my progress, I can run really fast, but in a circle. And I'm simply burning my own self out. I think many people can relate to that. So about 10 years ago, I decided to do something very unconventional. I began to go on a yearly sabbatical. And I would take 5 days completely by myself, ideally by the water or, typically on the beach. And it was guided by asking myself 3 key questions. And that is, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? And how can I be a better business owner? Those were the 3 questions. And the purpose of this was to pray and journal and just be by myself and ask myself, what is it that I really want? Okay. And that became so powerful for me. And I began to share that with other advisors. And what happened was it began to revolutionize not just my business, but countless advisors around the country. Because what I believe is at a deep level, the role of a financial advisor is the most powerful vocation a person can have. I mean, it is the most rewarding thing, more than the attorney or the CPA, the doctor. You are there to walk alongside them through all of life's key decisions. You're often the first person that gets called when there's a funeral. You get the wedding invitation. You get the college graduation invite because you were there at their highest and lowest points in their lives. And what I realized is as advisors, we don't have the luxury of simply removing the memories of all of our clients the moment we step out the door. So I'll tell you another, just an add-on story here. One of my clients was a pilot, and he shares this little nugget with me recently that it took me a while to process. He says, Derrick, I don't have any stress in my job that I carry with me. I said, what? You're a pilot? He said, let me tell you why. I get to the airport, I step on the plane, I follow my pre-flight checklist and get us in the air. And then once we land, I follow the post-flight checklist. And once every passenger is off the plane, I no longer have any stress about that flight. I have completed my job. I thought, what the heck? I've never had a day like that. All of us advisors were sort of carrying this roller bag of luggage. And inside of that roller bag are all of our clients, their hopes and their dreams and their fears and their desires desires, and we carry that. Some people say work-life balance, but is it really real? I don't think it is. And so advisors have to manage their own burnout. And what I find is when they know what they're tacking toward, just like they're in a boat on the ocean, when the winds are coming at them hard and the waves are crashing, they know they're focused on that destination. Advisors on a regular basis, I would say on a quarterly basis, need to remind themselves, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? And where is this taking me to? Because advisors, you will give everything for your clients, but are you thinking about your family as your top client? Are you thinking about yourself as your top client? Thinking about your relationships outside of the client base as your top client? Those little mental shifts for advisors can be really powerful. And so that's why I say to people when I'm on a stage, I'm not here to change your life. I'm not here to change your business plan. I'm just here to give you a quarter twist and just give you small steps for big changes.
Hey, Chad, how can I get away with taking that 5-day sabbatical and going somewhere, some tropical place, and just with my journal and my Bible? And I'd love to know how you pulled that one off, but maybe we could save that for another episode.
There you go. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to make it happen. When you can see what's important and you see that vision, you see what's out there and how we can get there. I think that's the key. And Derrick, so this is the coolest thing because you can see throughout this conversation, you're in it, you're walking along, you've been an advisor, you're walking along with advisors now. It's just fantastic. What are you seeing most questions that are coming? Is there a question that comes up from advisors that are like, oh, Derrick, man, if you can really help me with this would to me?
I think it's important for advisors not to overcomplicate what they're doing. And one of the biggest mistakes I find, especially next-gen advisors or even people who are just struggling, they automatically think things must be hard for me to be successful. Or they think that the ideal client I want needs to be impressed by my knowledge and the sophistication of what I'm recommending to them with solutions. Surely high net worth people only want to be in sophisticated, hard to understand, complicated tools. Okay. What we find is it is just the opposite. And when you can realize people are paying me to take complexity and transform it into simplicity, that's how the highest paid advisors grow their businesses. Because you think about an ideal client, you think about someone who they may run a business, they run a company, they're a senior level VP, whatever their level of responsibility is, even if it's it's a stay-at-home mom who inherited money or whatever it is, there's always high levels of responsibility. People want people in their lives that can make complex things easy to understand and give me choices. I call this the email bullet point theory. Okay. So if I get an email and it's a big chunk of paragraphs of text, I will typically delete it or I'll clearly miss the key points because my AD kicks in. I cannot process that much stuff at all. But I tell people, give me 3 bullet points. Give me 3 bullet points. Tell me, here's the purpose of the email. Here are the 3 options. And here's when you need my answer by. I will respond all the time because you burn the brain cells for me so I can make easy choices. So what I would tell advisors is once you identify that relatable problem that you got, your job is to be the wisdom filter for your clients. Your job is to go through the complexity and filter it into simplicity to tell your clients, I've done the hard work for you. Here are 3 options I think are all equally good. Here's the pros and the cons of each. What do you feel more comfortable with? Which option do you feel like is more reasonable? You see, that'll go to the next level.
Yeah, you're sharing, the client sees that you're actually helping reduce their mental load.
Yes.
So they've got the trust there, and then they're like, oh man, you've helped me simplify. This is what we try to do at Box Professionals, simplify a complicated, small piece, but very important piece for our advisory clients, right? And boil it down to a couple of choices. And so it's awesome. And this is the beauty of what we get to do is just like you, Derrick, is we get to now help a bunch of advisors help people. So we hopefully, I don't know, in time, we get to see how it helps the whole community across the US, right?
So Derrick, what you're saying is this is a good thing for me to know. And because I actually have a page of notes. Like I normally don't do that on a podcast, but I'm like, man, this stuff is such gold. I can't wait to executing on it. And one of them is, I guess what you're saying is I have to shorten my emails when I send Chad an email. I have to.
See, that's what I do.
I have the bullet points.
What Rob didn't realize is I brought Derrick on to teach Rob.
I'm getting more out of this than you guys are. Are you kidding? This is fantastic.
Oh, good stuff.
There's
All
a-
right.
There's a little pause.
Yeah, there's a little pause.
That's okay. It's fine. Hold on. All right. Just want to make sure I get that.
All right.
We're pros here, Derrick. So I have a question for you on, I think one of the things I hear most from financial advisors, especially, is when you're talking about the marketing side. So let's talk about the marketing side and how we can bridge that. I see like we can bridge a gap in the communication and the messaging. From a messaging standpoint, when you're talking to advisors about how to better market themselves to attract more clients, to bring in more new clients, and then being able to convert them into clients, because that's what I wrote down is your whole thing is you turn conversations into clients for financial advisors. So where I'm going with this is how important, Derrick, is it for financial advisors to really get crystal clear on their content strategy, on their messaging, and how they kind of script out the journey to from the time a client has that conversation with them to the time that they actually bring them in as a new client and sign them on?
I think it's important for people not to buy in to the advisor they think they should be. It was something I bought into early on that, well, if I'm going to be a financial advisor, I need to dress a certain way and look a certain way and talk a certain way. These days, people love personalities. They love to like what people themselves are. And so what I would have advisors listening right now, this is going to sound very counterintuitive, but it was highly effective for me and has been for advisors I teach this to. You want people to know you, like you, and trust you, okay? Most advisors strive so hard to be, I just want to be trusted. I just want to be the trusted advisor, which is great. Trust is very powerful. But if people don't like you, then there might be another friend who's closer to them who goes and becomes a financial advisor, and then they choose to work with that person because they like them more than they trust you. Okay. So the point is you want to be somebody who's relatable. And here's a lesson I learned. So we've got 4 kids, and when they were younger, one of my daughters played volleyball at the school. And so I was always a suit and tie guy, didn't wear a jacket in a meeting, but I would have the tie on, the cufflinks, the whole thing. And when I would leave, I would go right to the volleyball game in my tie. One day I had some time to go home first, so I put on a pair of shorts, and it made me feel so nervous thinking, oh my gosh, people only see me as the suit and tie guy, the advisor. What will happen? And I can't tell you how many clients walk up to me who were clients of mine that were parents of kids at the school. They said, Derrick, it's so nice to see you relax. It's so fun to see you in shorts and a t-shirt. And it was this big aha moment. Oh my gosh, people just need me to be me. But what they really were saying was, I need you to be more like me so I can better relate to you. You see, I was just as intelligent and just as confident in my shorts and t-shirt because they liked me already. So what I would tell advisors is, don't focus on, I've got to memorize this entire prospectus, I've got to do this or this. You just need to be likable. And the way to do that is, for example, when people walk into your physical office, or if you're just the Zoom person, what is behind you? And I want you to do this experiment. When you go in your office, sit in your chair and actually have your team take a picture of what is directly behind you as you're sitting there. And the reason I say that is you want people to see pictures of your family, pictures of your kids, pictures of your dog, pictures of your cat, pictures about you with a group of people at the event you recently served at. And the whole goal of that is you're encompassing yourself with likability and trust. Or the great picture, if you love to grill brisket at home, a picture of you in your apron, you've got the spatula and a smile and you're flipping a burger. You see, all of those things make you, oh my gosh, this person is just like me. This advisor has the same worries and fears and goals with their family as I do for mine. I like this person. And another thing I would say is, and again, very counterintuitive here, but these are things that help you stand out. What is going to be your signature attire? What is it that you're going to wear on a regular basis that people will connect? Oh, that's her. Oh, that's him. That's how they are. Because the goal is we want to have more mental hooks in their mind, because the reality is anybody can manage money. Anybody can be a financial advisor. We're all commodities. And so every day we're fighting to be anti-commodity by building a personal brand of who we are. So for example, women I'll often see, they might wear a signature brooch on a jacket, or they might a certain type of shoe or a handbag, whatever that style is. Every time someone sees them, they know she will consistently have that. Like one of the big things for me is I love Robert Graham shirts. Robert Graham shirts are my move. And so when I speak, I typically wear them. I have a jacket with a pocket square. That's kind of the look I've got. And so I began to be known as Derrick always dresses well. He always dresses well. And because it made me feel good, but it made me consistent to the people I wanted to work with. So if I pop on TV or I'm on a podcast, there's a similar look that's there. So the goal is you're simply adding to that narrative, this person is like me, but there's also something unique about that person. So don't ever feel like I need to be like someone else. The best advisors embrace who they are. I mean, I've worked with advisors that one had like a speech impediment. One was overly boisterous. One didn't have, a jacket or a tie. The whole goal is one liked to be in dimly lit rooms and bring their clients into more of a spa type setting. All people are different. So the key is just ask yourself, what is it that you like? And look at your 5 most recent clients and your 5 favorite clients. And you can just study them, or you could even invite them all to an impromptu lunch and say, hey, I just want to get your feedback, and ask them questions and let them tell you. Don't ask your family these questions. Ask your clients, because they're the one putting their dollars and their time to you as their advisor. That's going to be the best source to find out, good and bad, how you can grow and attract more people like the people you want.
Man, I guess I have to change my attire, Chad.
I don't know. You like that. You rock the polo shirt.
Derrick is really sharp, and his jacket matches the color scheme of his book in the background. He has the whole look. I love it. Derrick, the reason I'm being cheeky about it is because people make fun of me. I'm a little bit of a minimalist when it comes to my attire. I have 12 of the exact same shirt. I have exact same shorts, and I wear the same thing every day, almost every day. And actually, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And it makes me make less decisions every day and have that minimalist mentality of, you know what? That's the last thing I want to be thinking about. I work from home. But you know what? There's a really good point to that, because I think the point is I don't major in the minors. I used to overthink that stuff myself. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to be me. And I love what you just said, because it's be you and be confident about it and stand tall. And to me, when you know who you are and you're building your personal brand, it just breeds so much confidence, and it shows, and other people can feel that. So you can make fun of me for my black golf shirt, but I'm sticking to it because I'm a minimalist. And
I don't make fun of you. We can laugh together. We can laugh together.
What I would say to that is, take Rob's example. When you think about branding and you think about consistent, there's 2 lessons from that. So there's one of the gentlemen I had on my podcast early on. His name is Peter Shankman. And this is a guy really high on it. And he talked about how it's actually a superpower and what he did to manage that better. And Rob, what you said reminded me of something he said to me, and that is you want to limit essentially your non-essential choices. And so in his closet, he has one side of business shirts and one side of black t-shirts. And that's the choice. And he'll go to sleep the night before in his gym clothes, and he'll have his blinds automatically timed to the alarm clock, automatically rise at a certain time. So he knows it's pre-programmed. Okay, I get up, I'm already dressed, I go. And the lesson I take from that is, and I talk to advisors about this all the time, and I'll share just a funny story. Limit your brain cells on what your brain needs to be used for. I call this putting your brain on the payroll. Don't use your brain for repetitive minor tasks that cost you time and money. For example, when I had my practice, this may sound very crazy, but I would have my assistant go buy Chick-fil-A every morning and have breakfast purchased for me. And when I walked into my office after dropping my kids off, there was my Chick-fil-A, my yogurt and my wheat bagel right there, and 3 note cards on my keyboard. And so I could easily eat breakfast. I couldn't open my computer until I wrote my 3 notes a day. And that took away burning of the brain cells. And then at lunch, miraculously, my market fresh salad from Chick-fil-A with 2 fat-free honey mustard sauces arrived on my desk. And I told my team, you can also buy lunch and breakfast for yourself as well. It's on me, because this is saving me an immense amount of time. And then I would also, to another office in Dallas I would go to periodically, I would have an Uber take me there, because for the $75 Uber ride, I could work 1 full hour in the backseat on the way there and 1 full hour in the backseat on the way back, which which at $500 an hour was a clear economic win for me. Okay. So what I would tell people is reserve your brain cells for the highest, most dollar productive tasks, which typically are things you don't want to do and don't like to do, but you need to do them. And I would tell people is 8 to 10 in the morning is the golden hours. If you can plan the night before, I'm going to call these people. I'm going to be out of the office. I'm going to have coffee with this person. I'm going to do the hard things to grow my business before 10 o'clock. Once you do that, you have literally crushed your day. You're going to feel so good. Even if you get rejected for 2 hours, you did what most people will never, ever dare to do. And you're going to feel the adrenaline all day. Now you can focus on the minutia emails and the minutia stuff because you did the required stuff early in the morning. Now the rest of the optional stuff the rest of the day, you're going to win.
Love it.
We like to win.
Things real quick before we kind of wrap things up. Things. Number one, I'm ready to run through a burning building right now with Derrick. No kidding. And I mean, that's just enormous value right there. And then the other thing that I really like what you talk about, Derrick, is you talk about not burning brain cells. And for me, that's a really good visual because it makes me think, it's actually making me think, all right, is what I'm about to do going to burn too many brain cells? Is that even necessary right now? Or should I focus on this really high value task or strategy that's going to help me get the results and outcomes that I'm looking for? And I really appreciate you sharing that because it gave me some perspective, and you just dropped value bomb after value bomb today. So we're extremely grateful.
My pleasure. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me today. I've loved it.
We have a question we like to end on, and it's an interesting question because I think people may start anticipating it, but and sometimes we can maybe hear it in the podcast, but I really like to hear from you, Derrick. When you're looking back over your life, you've done a lot of really great things, a lot of fun things. You get out there and talk to folks, but what do you want to be known as? When you're sitting on that, you're taking your week out there and you're thinking about, and you're saying, man, this is what people know me for, and it's been a good life. What does that look like?
I've always had an appreciation for words and communication. My degree in college was actually in what's called organizational communication. I just always enjoyed the power that words can have. And having built a business and believing that words equal wealth, I've just found that the right word spoken at the right time, said to the right person, addressing the right problem can lead to great profits. Whether it's a conversation with my wife or I think that it appears in my head simply to say to her, honey, the story is it appears that you're mad at me. Am I telling myself a true story? And it just diffuses the whole situation. Or if I say to a client, hey, can I ask you a very personal question? They almost always say yes. And whatever I say next always deepens the relationship. So I've just learned that if I can help advisors give them words and the confidence to use their words to truly feel empathetic and relatable to people, that to me will have been a life well lived.
Wonderful.
Powerful.
Thank you, Derrick. I am really happy, honored, glad you could make it and take the time to hang out with us for a little bit here.
Yeah. And listen, I'm so grateful, Derrick. Thank you so much. And I think this is one step in having you on again at some point. I know you're probably going to have a lot more to share and a lot more ideas that are going to be really valuable for anybody who's listening and watching today. So listen, thank you so much. How can people find out more about you, Derrick? How can people reach you? What's the best way for people to learn more about what Derrick has to offer?
Two things. One's an easy one, and that is follow me on LinkedIn at Derrick Kinney. I post 6 times a week, and the goal is to really give a voice from a successful advisor standpoint to people who want to grow and just need those small quarter twists, those tweaks that they need for that next big breakthrough. And then second, you can go to successforadvisors.com, which is our website. We've got some free downloadables there. One, the 10 biggest mistakes financial advisors make and how to avoid them. Also just uploaded one of the 10 critical conversations that most people mess up and how you can avoid making those mistakes. So successforadvisors.com is a good resource.
And I'm going to put the links to everything in the show notes for everybody so that you guys can reach out and talk to Derrick. And by the way, this is a plug for Derrick. You got to buy his book. If you heard what he just had to say today, buy the Good good money revolution. This is such gold. And for any financial advisor who wants to be successful, who wants to learn how to communicate better, who wants to add more value in their business, in their life, in their relationships, my goodness, consume Derrick's content. And he has so much wisdom, so much value. So Derrick, thank you so much for sharing what you have to offer to the world. I mean, this is your superpower, man. We're really honored and grateful for that.
Hey, that means a lot. I've really enjoyed this time. I do a lot of podcasts, but this is one of my favorites. The questions you asked, I think will help a lot of people. You guys help pull out some good stuff out of me, which I think is the goal of a good podcast. So this is fun. So Rob, Chad, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derrick. By the way, for everybody who's listening and watching today, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We're looking to grow and we're looking to reach out to more financial advisors. So we want to get the message out, and we want to just share enormous value with our audience. And please feel free to share this with anyone who you think needs to hear it or learn it or absorb it. So guys, thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Advisor's Edge podcast. Take care.